I have created a ARPG item system which is pretty similar to this item system that most ARPGs use today, most popular ARPGs, right? So, like Diablo, Path of Exile, um, Last Epoch, stuff like that. What does that mean? That means I have items with inherent values. Inherent values are basically like let's say you have an item type of Iron Gauntlet, right? You'll know that all Iron Gauntlet items will give you armor. So it doesn't matter what Iron Gauntlet item you pick up, it will always give you some value of armor. That's like the inherent type of item. So I have like inherent modifiers. I also have affixes. What are affixes? These are sort of modifiers which affect your stats, but they're selected from a pool of like a vast pool of modifiers which can affect your stats. And any item can have any sort of combination of these affixes, as long as they adhere to certain rules, right? So a lot of games have it so that some item types can roll some affixes and not roll other affixes, and also they sort of limit um, what types of affixes can roll an item. Like let's say your item has already rolled an affix that increases your max health. Well, you don't want it to be able to roll another affix which just does the same thing, right? Um, some games also divide these affixes into prefixes and suffixes. I have chosen to do this uh, because I realized after some tinkering around that the reason why most ARPGs sort of go the route of dividing the affixes into two different or maybe three different types is because if you do not do that, you will run into problems where number one, when you are replacing gear on your character, it is very difficult for you to find gear which will do what your previous gear did, but better, right? Because let's say you have your previous gear, it's rolled like certain affixes that you want on your character, right? And now you want to find a gear which will be better than this gear, but not result in you losing stats that you otherwise would need. I'm not sure if you understand me, but like a very common pain point when it comes to ARPG games is you're playing the game, and you get like gear, you're using your gear, but then you realize it's been a while since you changed your gear, so you're trying to look for an upgrade for your gear. But every new gear that you find, which might be an upgrade to your character, results in you having to like change all your gear, right? Because then you lose some of the stats that your current gear gives you that you actually do need in order to have your character work. So let's say you replace your gloves and your gloves have some resistances, but your new gear doesn't have resistances, then you would have to get resistances from elsewhere, and then it sort of becomes a sort of Jenga kind of deal. And the whole point of dividing affixes into two different types, prefixes and suffixes, is to sort of alleviate this issue somewhat, because if all of your gear is guaranteed to at least have like three suffixes and three prefixes and stuff like that, uh, you will naturally have gear which are more similar to each other. And now this sort of might seem bad to you because it's like, oh, I want to have very varied types of gear, right? I don't want like my gear to be similar to each other. Um, it sort of turns out that like when gear becomes too varied, um, it becomes very difficult for you to find upgrades, meaningful upgrades to your character just from picking up stuff from the ground. So it is sort of necessary for you to have a sort of like rule system here, where it's like, okay, my gear will have three prefixes, three suffixes. This way I'll be guaranteed because to have some sort of defensive modifiers on my gear because I've sort of allocated that power budget to the suffixes of the gear, right? My suffixes will be typically more defensively based. So because gear will always have like around three suffixes, you'll be able to guarantee that your gear will always have some sort of defensive modifier associated to it with it. There's also some like downsides to this approach. Like I said, it sort of like reduces gear variety, but when it comes down to it, it's I think it's probably a good system to use. Not just because all of the industry uses it, just because it's also because it sort of makes sense. But like I'm not gonna deny the fact that because most of the industry uses it, I'm sort of figure that they probably know what the hell they're doing, right? But yeah, so I've done that system. We can take a look at the gear I have here. Uh, right now I have spawned all of the level 1 to 10 gear in my game that I have created right now. Um, they are divided into 5 different attribute types. We have strength, dexterity, um, intelligence, luck, and constitution. Uh, for the strength, dexterity, and intelligence, it's very, very similar to what the industry uses. Its strength is armor, dexterity is evasion, intelligence is energy shield. I'm still a little bit on the fence about energy shield, but I'm probably gonna keep it. But then when it comes to luck and constitution, I've decided that luck will be death resist. Death resist is a mechanic where if you're going to die, you actually don't die, right? So let's say you have 100% death resist, you will just like avoid one of your deaths. But then every time you would have otherwise died but didn't die, your death resist percentage will drop by some value. And then I'm assuming, well, I'm planning on making it so that you can build both death resist percentage, so like you can increase your base death resist percentage, and but you can also decrease the amount your death resist percentage drops every time you resist death. So that's like another sort of defensive archetype you can build in this game. And then constitution based gear will just give you a health regeneration. Because actually in my game I'm sort of going with the approach of not having any flasks slash uh potions. Because I don't know, like in Path of Exile 1, I always felt like potions and flasks were always a really big pain point for me. I didn't really like using the flasks and potions. And then, like health flasks and mana flasks, yes, they do serve some use, but I don't know, I just decided to do it this way. Okay, now that we finished discussing about the was it the details of the items, we can actually take a look at how the implementation looks here. Uh, on each of my items, I'll have inherent values, implicit values, and prefixes and suffixes. This one has no implicits. It has an inherent value of plus 42 added death resist. It has 4 suffixes and no prefixes. My game allows up to 4 suffixes and up to 4 prefixes for a total of 8 affixes on the item. Um, and this one, you see the same here. You have the inherent value of 42 to added armor, and then you have 3 prefixes and 2 suffixes on this item. I just like the items, they roll randomly, like all these modifiers, and then they roll randomly, like what number of prefixes they'll have and what number of suffixes they'll have, right? Um, this one rolled some mana and stuff. Well, this one rolled the added mana. Hold up, which means if we equip it, we'll look at the resources, and now we have a fuck ton of added mana. Yep. It also has some resistances. You see its change of resistances here. And it has increased the armor as well. So when I unequip it, you see it changes back. Let's see what this gives. A whole bunch of resistances, kind of boring. Let me see if we can find something more interesting. I mean, this one gives a lot of ES, energy shield. It also gives a lot of health, and it has added strength on it. Added strength basically means that I will get some strength attribute here, and in my game, attributes inherently do have some sort of effect where, for example, strength, each point of strength will slightly increase your uh, generic attack damage, increased attack damage. I'm not sure, I probably said that wrong. It'll increase basically your generic damage you do with attacks. So if you look at offensive here, and unequip it, you see that the attack damage goes down here, even though that this item has nothing inherently on it, which says that it will increase or decrease the attack damage that you do. Yeah, and we can probably take a look and see if so luck increases crit here. It probably increases it by a little bit too much, because that is base crit there. We'll have to change that later. And then let's see. Is there any... It is a little annoying that it's layered on top. Okay, there we go. Strength, Constitution, Intelligence. Now this one will allow you to see a lot of what's going on here. Let's see here. So Strength increases attack damage here. The Constitution increases your health here. And the intelligence increases your cast speed here. Yeah. Anything else we can? Yeah, let's take a look at movement speed here. So like looking at all this is like the numbers change, right? But you're not really sure if it affects the game or not. But it is a little difficult for me to show if they affect the game because there's not really any enemies around. And then it is possible for me to spawn enemies in. I decide not to have them in the scene right now because it makes demonstrating a lot of things a little bit annoying because enemies will be like dashing around, trying to kill me and shooting at me. Even if I'm invulnerable, I can get stuck like in the middle of a whole bunch of enemies. It is a little bit annoying, right? So basically, the best way for me to show a modifier that is very visible is for me to put on a pair of boots with added movement speed, and you'll see that hey, putting this on changes the movement speed here, also gives me like a very visible increased movement speed in the game. And let me see if I can find a body armor, dexterity body armor. Yes, this one will increase movement speed. When I put this on, it gives me 20% increased movement speed. And when I unequip this, you see that because my base movement speed is 100, this is basically just the same as 20 plus 20 added movement speed if I have nothing else equipped, right? But if I put on these boots, then they will stack with each other, and I'll gain a pretty decent chunk of movement speed here. And if I equip an action here as well, and this is action which will increase my movement speed by 100, you see that it actually increased my movement speed by more than 100 because of the 20% movement speed modifier, right? Um, the cast speed and attack speed not yet implemented. And the defenses they are implemented. They are implemented. Most of these defenses are implemented. Uh, and the health is implemented, of course. Yeah, but that's about it. That's basically what I wanted to show. It's pretty cool.